Welcome to the channel. Before you listen to the story, please leave a comment below the video and hit the follow button so I can maintain the channel and be motivated to release more stories. Now let's listen to the story. My fiancé, the flight captain, gave the only life-saving device to the girl he loved most. I didn't cry or make a scene. I calmly accepted it because in the previous life, when faced with the choice, he chose to give the life-saving device to me, who was pregnant with his child. In the end, the plane crashed. The girl he loved died tragically in the violent impact without protective gear, while I, because of the pregnancy, naturally became his wife. But on our wedding night, he locked me in the basement and beat me with a baseball bat until I miscarried. If it wasn't for you forcing Tauntaun to give up the life-saving device, how could she have died so tragically? He forced me to kneel before that girl's grave, banging my head 999 times, forcing me again and again to get pregnant and then lose the child to atone for the crime I had committed. I was tortured to the point of madness, finally choosing suicide. This time, I did as he wished. The plane was shaking violently, passengers panicking. In less than 10 minutes, the plane would crash. I clutched my 7-month pregnant belly, my face pale, clinging tightly to my seat. The co-pilot also looked as tense as I did because there was only one life-saving kit left, and in the last row, only Anna and Grace hadn't received one. Grace was the girl my fiancé loved most. The cockpit door opened. Captain Ryan strode out. As soon as Grace saw him, her eyes instantly welled up. "Ryan, I'm so scared," she said. She had doe-like eyes, glistening with tears, looking fragile and pitiful. Ryan didn't even glance at me for a second, but directly pulled her into his arms, gently coaxing, "Be good, don't be afraid, I'll protect you." He hugged the girl tightly, completely forgetting that just a step away was me, his pregnant fiancée. It wasn't until the co-pilot reminded him that he remembered my existence. When our eyes met, he frowned, his voice cold and full of disgust. "I've said it before, pregnant women flying are just bad luck. You insisted on following me, now you've caused the entire flight to be in danger. Are you satisfied now?" He was a renowned captain, and many people in the cabin trusted him. So when they heard him say that, the already frightened passengers became even more furious. Curses and insults towards me and the baby in my belly rang out incessantly. A child of about 5 years old threw a metal model airplane hard at me. The sharp wing sliced a long gash across my forehead, blood gushing out. The entire cabin turned into a hell where all the anger was directed at me. Grace, sitting next to me, slightly curved her lips, a hint of smugness flashing in her eyes. But immediately, she sobbed, tears like rain, her voice trembling as she asked Ryan, "Ryan, now there's only one life-saving kit left. What should we do?" As she spoke, she pretended to be heartbroken, or, "Why don't you give it to Sister Anna? She's pregnant with your child, and I just need to be by your side until the last moment. Even if I die, I won't regret it." Ryan's eyes instantly turned red. He hugged Grace tightly, kissing her hair repeatedly, his voice full of pain. "No, Grace, meeting you is the luckiest thing in my life. I won't let anything happen to you." Without another word, he snatched the only life-saving kit from the co-pilot's hand without hesitation and carefully put it on Grace. Then, applause echoed in the cabin. Everyone was moved by their deep love. Only the co-pilot spoke up, "Captain, what about your fiancé then? The plane is about to crash and she's pregnant, she can't take it." But Ryan only looked at me coldly, a hint of understanding flashing in his eyes. "You did it on purpose, didn't you? You're relying on the baby in your belly to force me to give up the life-saving kit, wanting to kill Grace. Do you know that she is the rarest dance prodigy in the world, with a bright future? You, because you couldn't pursue your dream, are jealous and want to ruin her? You vicious thing. I won't let you achieve your goal." His voice roared crazily amidst the ear-splitting roar of the plane's engines as it plummeted. But I remained very calm, without refuting or arguing. Having experienced the painful previous life, I had clearly seen the true nature of the man I had loved for over 10 years. He had never loved me anyway, and I no longer had any expectations of him. This life, I would do as he wished, and leave his life forever. In the final moments, the co-pilot was about to take off his own life-saving kit to give to me, but I raised my hand to stop him. I looked up and calmly gazed at Ryan, who was stunned before my eyes. At the very moment the plane exploded, I mouthed a sentence: "I don't need you anymore, nor do I need this child." I released my grip on my belly. The feeling of weightlessness rushed in, and my consciousness faded into nothingness until my whole body fell into the ocean, bone-chillingly cold. The explosion from the plane shattered my body. Every joint felt crushed. My once rounded belly now concave and strange. My ears were deafened. The world became absolutely silent. Hot blood gushed from the top of my head, contrasting with the cold water around me, burning so much it caused me pain. The deep blue sea was gradually dyed red by my blood. I floated weightlessly in the icy water, my vision blurring, only seeing sparkling streaks of light. Within that light were fragments of the plane floating everywhere. Above, a rescue helicopter was rushing over. On the rope ladder lowered, Ryan hugged Grace tightly, unharmed, climbing up, but was angrily stopped by the co-pilot with bloodstains on his forehead. I tried to squint, reading their lip movements. The co-pilot roared, "You beast! Your wife and child are still soaking in the sea, and you only know how to save your lover." He was genuinely indignant for me, even though there wasn't much of a friendship between us. Luckily, he survived this accident, while Ryan was even angrier than the co-pilot. "She sprained her leg. Do you know what that means to a dance prodigy?" he yelled. "As for whether to save my wife and child, that's my business. What right do you have to interfere?" Finishing speaking, his eyes suddenly flashed with contempt, a cold sneer at the corner of his lips. "Or, do you have an affair with her? Otherwise, why would you be so heartbroken for her?" I had seen too much of Ryan's coldness, but hearing these words, my heart still ached as if torn apart. The co-pilot clenched his fists, so angry his face turned pale, but he still insisted on taking me for emergency treatment first. But Ryan didn't allow it. "Mark, you're just a trainee co-pilot. I am your examiner. I have the right to evaluate your competence. If you insist, I think you should prepare to find another job." Seeing that the co-pilot didn't waver, his voice deepened. "You may not care about yourself, but your girlfriend works in air traffic control. Isn't she important either?" The co-pilot immediately paled. He hesitated. Ryan saw the hesitation on his face, revealing a satisfied look, as if he had just done something extremely benevolent. He slowly looked at the co-pilot, then glanced down at me with a look of disdain. The smile at the corner of his lips was extremely cold. "Don't let her deceive you. She's best at pretending to be pitiful." Before, she also lied that Grace hired thugs to bully her, causing me to go save her and miss the most important competition of Grace's life. Later, I found out that it was all staged by her. She deliberately caused Grace to miss the competition and be unable to enter a prestigious school. Such a vicious woman. She schemed to get pregnant, using the baby to force me to get engaged to her. Now she wants to play the same old trick, forcing Grace to die. How hateful. Ryan's voice was full of resentment. "I have seen her true face already. If she likes to pretend to be pitiful, likes to soak in the cold sea, then just let her stay there." He didn't turn his head back, hugging Grace, who had fainted but still had a rosy blush on her cheeks, looking extremely peaceful, and stepped onto the helicopter. The helicopter's propeller whirled violently, stirring up the sea surface, creating fierce waves. I was exhausted, unable to resist any longer. When the last wave hit, my consciousness completely sank into darkness. Ryan and I weren't always so hateful towards each other. Before high school, I used to be the most important treasure in his life. His phone and computer passwords were all my birthday. The relationship between me and him began to deteriorate when the daughter of my family's helper, Grace, transferred to my class. Only half a month after she enrolled, I fell down the stairs one morning, resulting in a leg fracture. At that time, I was preparing for a very important dance competition, and Grace replaced me in the position. Only then did I know that she also studied ballet and danced very well, and the person who thought the same as me was Ryan. In the half-month I stayed at home to recover, Grace became Ryan's desk mate because he took the initiative to propose it. Because Grace was blocked in the bathroom by my best friend and bullied, Ryan happened to pass by and helped her. From that day on, he became her knight, while I turned into a despicable villain in their love story. In the previous life, I was unwilling to lose Ryan. I did many foolish things out of jealousy. Even when Grace set traps and framed me, I didn't immediately find evidence to clarify, which made Ryan hate me more and more. In the end, he not only blocked me from all contact, but also declared to both families that he would never marry me in this lifetime because the only person he loved was Grace. I was so heartbroken that I fell into severe depression, going abroad to study for 4 years. I thought I had let go of him, but unexpectedly, after I returned to the country, I found out that Grace had also gone abroad. Ryan was therefore heartbroken and depressed. I foolishly stayed by his side again, comforting him and encouraging him to pursue his dream. He decided to become a captain just because he wanted to be able to personally pick up and drop off Grace for competitions. I had originally wanted to let go of everything, but on the night Grace and Ryan argued and broke up, he got drunk and forced himself on me. The next morning, he threw a test result at me, which showed traces of drugs in the wine, and then coldly scolded me for being a despicable woman who plotted to use tricks to get him. But in reality, I didn't know who put the drug in. What was even more helpless was that after that night, I became pregnant. Under the pressure of my parents and his parents, he reluctantly got engaged to me. During that time, Grace returned to the country. Ryan started not coming home all night, staying at her place. That action pushed me to madness with jealousy. I even booked the same flight as Grace just to catch them in the act. But then, in the decisive moment, I presented the agreement between his father and me, which clearly stated that if I died, he would not receive a single penny from the inheritance. It was precisely because of this that Ryan reluctantly gave the life-saving device to me. But I never thought that he had never loved me, and never loved the child I was carrying. But fortunately, this life I have a chance to start over, so it's better to stop losses early. When I opened my eyes again, what came into view was a cold white ceiling. I was in the intensive care unit, wearing an oxygen mask, breathing weakly. Seeing me wake up, the nurse was so happy that she couldn't control her voice. 10 ribs fractured, both eardrums severely damaged, skull fractured, lungs punctured, yet you're still alive. You really have a big life. She spoke very quickly, but I was still immersed in the memories of my previous life, not yet recovered. Even my soul ached and trembled. For half a month, I was hospitalized. Ryan never appeared once. During that time, his father called him countless times, but each time he thought it was just a drama that I and his parents had put on together to deceive him. Anna, if you are cunning and evil, just target me. Why drag my parents into acting in a play? How shameful. He said that he had more important things to do, which was to accompany the girl he loved most to participate in business events as the heir to the faux group, helping Grace, who was about to debut in the entertainment industry, build her reputation. The day I was discharged from the hospital, I sat in a wheelchair and the doctor coldly announced, "The bones of your leg are completely crushed. For the rest of your life, you can't dance anymore. Even walking will be extremely difficult." Ryan's mother burst into tears and fainted in her husband's arms. But I was very calm. I even turned to comfort the 2 elders. "It's okay. At least I'm still alive. Unlike the previous life, I died tragically in Ryan's hands. This time, I'm still alive." To remember the child I lost, I decided to hold a funeral. That day, I texted Ryan, "Today is the funeral of our child. Do you want to see your child one last time? The doctor said it was a baby girl, fully formed. By the way, come sign the divorce papers too. Although we never held a wedding, as soon as he knew I was pregnant, he was forced by his parents to marry me. At the funeral that day, many of my classmates were present. They looked at me with pity, constantly comforting me. It was also at this moment that Ryan appeared. He looked extremely radiant, with faint red marks on his neck. Even the buttons on his white shirt were buttoned wrong, enough to see what he had been doing before coming here. Everyone around was an adult and immediately noticed the abnormality. A series of disgusted glances turned towards him. No responsible man would be able to happily be with his lover on the funeral day of his own child. But Ryan didn't care about those glances. His gaze swept over my flat belly, then smugly threw a stack of medical records in front of me. Grace's friend works as a nurse in the hospital. Ever since you called me, she has found someone to check your medical records. Basically, there is no miscarriage record at all. Even your injuries are just a few bruises, no fractures at all. As he spoke, he shook his head, his eyes full of disgust. You are really shameless. Just to compete for attention, you actually held a funeral to curse your own child. Speaking of this, he turned to look at the people around. Everyone, don't be deceived by her. She is just a crazy woman who is always immersed in jealousy. Her whole life has no other goal than to compete for men. Leave quickly. Don't let her use this funeral to swindle money from everyone. His tone was extremely certain, as if he really held all the evidence to accuse me. If the people present hadn't witnessed the child's ashes with their own eyes, hadn't seen the wounds on my belly, perhaps they would have believed him. Ryan's parents were so angry that their faces turned purple, wanting to pull him away so he wouldn't lose face anymore, but he coldly pushed them away. Mom and Dad, I said back then that I didn't want to marry her, but you two insisted on forcing me to marry. Now look, what kind of state has your family been turned into by her? The reputation of the Faux family has been ruined by this woman who specializes in lying. Ryan, that's enough. I quietly pushed my wheelchair forward to in front of him, cutting him off coldly. He lowered his head to look at me, his eyes full of contempt. How dare you fabricate a story and not dare to let me expose you? I shook my head, calmly taking out a stack of documents from my bag and handing it to him. These are my medical records and divorce papers. My voice was still even. I don't want your parents to be ashamed because of you. When he saw the papers in my hand, he paused, but then immediately burst out laughing contemptuously. You think just making a fake copy similar to Grace's will make me believe you? I calmly pulled up my clothes, revealing my belly covered in gruesome scars. I didn't have a life-saving kit when the plane exploded. My belly was torn apart. I sighed softly, my tone helpless. I'm not lying to you. The baby is really gone. Just one glance, Ryan's face instantly turned pale. How could this be? He staggered, his eyes fixed on the scars on my belly. He wanted to touch them but didn't dare to. But very quickly, he regained his arrogance. The feeling of fear vanished, leaving only coldness and arrogance. His voice was stiff. Even if you get divorced, this is also retribution for you. I have investigated and found evidence that you framed Grace that year, hiring thugs to block her way. If you dare to play tricks again, what you lose won't just be a child. As soon as his words fell, the entire venue was as silent as death. His parents were so angry that they couldn't speak. The tense atmosphere was broken when the class monitor squeezed through the crowd and spoke up. Are you talking about the National Ballet competition that year? Ryan sneered, cutting him off. She said the same thing to you too? It's obvious that she spent money to hire thugs to ambush Grace on her way to the competition. No, it's not. Another voice interrupted. It was the class vice monitor. He glanced at the sports vice monitor, then seriously said, those thugs were originally aimed at Anna. If I, the class monitor, and the sports vice monitor hadn't accidentally passed by that day and called the police, something would have happened to her. The whole venue was in an uproar. That's right, Anna went to the police station with the police that day. If it was really her own staged act, how could the police not have found out? Ryan's face became increasingly ugly. He didn't expect things to develop in this direction, wanting to refute but not knowing what to say. Just then, his assistant hurriedly ran in, his voice urgent. "President Foe, we have found the evidence." That year, the police did arrest a group of criminals who caused injury with weapons. The mastermind only got out of prison 4 years ago. Ryan immediately asked, did he confess that the Anna family hired him? The assistant hesitated, stammering, No, the mastermind didn't say anything, but his accomplice handed over the entire chat history. The person who paid them to hire them was Grace. Boom! Ryan was struck by lightning. He stood there stunned, completely dazed. As for me, from beginning to end, I remained very calm. I had tried my best to defend this truth. I had used every means to prove it, but he had never believed me. I quietly pushed my wheelchair, sliding to his side, gently opening my mouth. Now talking about these things is meaningless anymore. Sign it. My voice pulled him back to reality. He turned to look at me, but the moment our eyes met, his whole body stiffened like a shrimp thrown into boiling water. He didn't want to believe that I was innocent. He immediately thought of another crime to pin on me. Even if you didn't frame Grace, what about you drugging me? That must have been you, right? I remained silent, not answering, but immediately after, an old and tired voice suddenly sounded. I put the drug in. It was his mother. Anna is a child that your father and I have personally watched grow up. Her voice was hoarse, but every word was extremely firm. We understand her character better than anyone. That year, when you were dumped by Grace and cried your heart out, Anna was by your side. She felt sorry for you, so she wanted to take care of you more for us. She stared at Ryan, gritting her teeth and saying, "Do you still remember your vow before Anna's parents' sickbed? You told them to rest assured that you would take care of Anna for life. Is this how you take care of her? You've tortured her to this extent. Even the child is gone. Do you know that while you were having fun outside, the doctor diagnosed that Anna will never be able to dance again in her life? Is this what you call taking care of her? You are truly a beast." Ryan's mother choked up, as if she had aged 10 years in just a moment. She slumped into her husband's arms. Even her tears had dried up. Ryan stood frozen in the crowd, like an isolated island that had just been washed away by the waves. Illusion? How ridiculous. He looked around. For the first time in his life, this always confident and arrogant man showed a hint of confusion and bewilderment. Why? Why is it Mom? His mother laughed coldly. Why? Because during that time, you were drunk every day, and when you were drunk, the person you mentioned was not Grace, but Anna. She sighed, her voice only fatigue left. I thought maybe you still loved Anna, so I asked the doctor to get the drug. She closed her eyes, her voice low. I did it. Just hate me. Ryan didn't know what to say, not yet digesting all this truth. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something. He turned around suddenly, excitedly asking me, "Then what about high school? You told your best friend to block Grace in the bathroom and bully her, is that true?" As soon as his words fell, only sneers and contempt were left around. Everyone looked at him as if they were looking at an idiot. The class vice monitor folded his arms and sneered, "Our school is an international school. Even the sinks next to the bathroom have surveillance cameras. As long as you have a little brain, you can check the camera to know the truth immediately. Don't tell me you've never watched it but believed Grace's words." My best friend from high school burst out laughing mockingly. Ryan's face stiffened. He always thought that Grace was a weak and pitiful girl who needed protection, and that I and my group of friends with good backgrounds were all arrogant, selfish, and cruel. But the reality was that we had never changed. The only one who changed was him. Okay, don't think too much. I spoke, forcefully pushing the divorce agreement into his hand. I'm extremely tired of it. Quickly sign it and get lost. Ryan didn't expect me to react like this. He stood there stunned, as if finally realizing that I had changed. His voice was full of disbelief. Anna, do you really want a divorce? I looked up at him, truly speechless by him. Just then, his phone rang. It was Grace calling. He subconsciously lowered his voice, softly asking, "Grace, what's wrong?" But the other end of the line was not her familiar soft voice, but her sharp and panicked scream. "Ryan, save me. I've been kidnapped. They said they would cripple my legs so I could never dance again." Ryan's face instantly changed. He rushed to the door, hurriedly asking, "Don't be afraid. I'm coming right away." "Who kidnapped you?" But Grace's next answer made him freeze in his tracks. "It's Anna. She sent people to kidnap me. She even threatened me, saying she would kill the baby in my belly to avenge her child." "Whoa, Ryan, my stomach hurts so much. I'm scared. I'm about to lose my baby. Save me." Beep, the call was disconnected. Ryan stood still for a long time before regaining his voice. "I never told her that I was going out to meet you." I looked up at the distant blue sky, a faint smile blooming. "Congratulations, you're going to be a father." I slowly continued, my tone like teasing, "But I have a piece of advice for you. I recall some clues I investigated in the previous life." The corner of my lips curled up with mischief. "It's best to get a DNA test done, otherwise, you might get cuckolded one day without even knowing it." Ryan stood there completely bewildered, the look in his eyes at me complex. I didn't care, pushing my wheelchair to turn around, but he suddenly called me back. "Anna, why did we become like this?" I paused for a moment, but didn't answer. After that day, Ryan no longer bothered me. I heard Mark say that he had been fired. The reason was that the black box of the crashed plane had been decoded. The data showed that before takeoff, all systems were fine. The real cause of the accident was that the control system was locked for too long, and the person who locked the system was Ryan. During that time, he had left the cockpit and did not allow the co-pilot to control the plane. And what was he doing at that time? He was in the bathroom with Grace. Not only that, he was also negligent in the process of checking the life-saving equipment, causing the number of kits to be insufficient, almost causing a passenger to lose their life. The person who submitted this evidence was Mark. He said that both he and his girlfriend came from poor families. If it weren't for my family's help over the years, they wouldn't have been able to get out of the mountains, so they couldn't turn a blind eye. The airline handled the matter very quickly. The day the dismissal announcement was released, the entire internet exploded with anger, especially the passengers on that flight. They posted videos recording the scene of him snatching the only life-saving kit to give to Grace, along with sarcastic captions like, "Even his own wife and child can be abandoned. Who dares to board a plane piloted by him again?" This video quickly went viral, dragging down Grace's pure and innocent ballet prodigy image as well. All her TV show contracts, advertisements, and movie roles were canceled. Even some brands that had filmed commercials with her demanded compensation for losses. She became a name that the entire internet was furious and criticized. But what made Grace most panicked was that she couldn't contact Ryan anymore because he was waiting in front of my house every day. After my child's funeral, I left the country, changed my phone number, determined to forget that painful period. But it seemed that Ryan suddenly remembered his pre-18-year-old self. To get my address, he knelt for 3 days and 3 nights before the faux family hall and was even beaten by his father. Finally, out of pity, his mother reluctantly gave him a vague address. With that little clue, he went door to door to inquire. In the process, he was almost arrested by the police for suspected illegal activities and was followed by patrol police every day. It wasn't until his visa was about to expire and he was about to be deported back to his country that he found my door. That day, I was reading a book in the living room when the helper opened the door. "Hello, I'm looking for Anna." His voice was hoarse, mixed with pain and endless regret. I looked up at him, my eyes calm without a ripple. "The divorce papers, I've already submitted them, just waiting for you to sign." My cold voice was like a sharp blade piercing straight into his heart. He stood there, thin and haggard, trying to force out a wry smile. Anna, can we not get divorced? He swallowed hard, his voice trembling. I just realized how wrong I was. Can you give me a chance to make amends? Let's start over, okay? Give me another chance to be your knight and protect you. I withdrew my gaze, coldly refusing no. Ryan's whole body trembled, his eyes bloodshot, his dry and cracked lips also trembling. He staggered forward to in front of me, then slowly knelt down. His voice was full of remorse. I've investigated and found out that Grace transferred schools that year to approach me. The story of her being bullied was completely fake, all arranged by her. His gaze swept over my thin legs hidden under the blanket, his pale and sunken face contorting with pain. I'm sorry, Anna. I shouldn't have misunderstood you. I was wrong. He trembled as if his soul was being torn apart. Grace is even filthier than I imagined, 100 times over. The baby in her belly is from her first love in her hometown. Her so-called first time with me was actually because she had her hymen surgically repaired. Stop talking. I cut him off, my voice ice cold. I don't want to hear any more of these filthy things. I frowned, looking at him, then chuckled. So, you mean because Grace is too disgusting, now you turn back to beg for my forgiveness, wanting me to give you a chance to start over? Because she is bad, so you realize I'm good, so finally you are willing to return my innocence to me. I smiled faintly, as if I had just heard the most ridiculous excuse from a scumbag. Then what if Grace was really a good girl? What if it was all just your imagination? Then am I deserving of being hurt by you? What did I do wrong? Ryan was stunned. He moved his lips, but couldn't utter a word. The regret and pain in his eyes seemed to devour him. Sorry, he curled up, in so much pain that he let out muffled sobs like a dying beast. But my heart had long been cold. I gestured to the helper to open the door. Mr. Ryan, because of that woman, you indirectly killed my child. You made me unable to dance for the rest of my life. Your sins are immeasurable, and I will never forgive you. The moment you snatched the life-saving kit, everything between you and me was completely over. Crack was the sound of something breaking. I looked up and saw Ryan opening his palm. In his hand was a small crystal button, broken in half, the birthday gift I gave him when I was 16 years old. On it was engraved Ryan's apology button. When I was 16 years old, I smiled mischievously and said to him, later, if you make me angry, this button can save your life. But remember, you only have one chance. At that time, 17-year-old Ryan laughed and asked me, then if you're so angry that you can't be coaxed, what then? I immediately glared, angrily saying, what? If I'm that angry, then you must have done very, very bad things. Then no matter what, I will never forgive you. Time passed like a dream. Ryan's joke when he was 17 years old became a life sentence for himself at 25 years old. After that day, Ryan returned to his country, while I, under the care of therapists abroad, finally gradually recovered. Not only could I walk, but I could even dance. I had completely cut off all contact with the outside world until Ryan's father's birthday, when I booked a flight back home. When Mr. and Mrs. Foe came to the airport to pick me up, I was surprised to find that their hair had turned completely white. I was stunned. His parents hesitated for a long time. Only after I finished burning incense for my biological parents and my child did they whisper, Ryan has been sentenced to death and will be executed next week. I was stunned. A cold evening breeze swept through, causing goosebumps all over my skin. Why? I asked. Ryan's father said in a deep voice, since returning to the country, he's like a walking corpse. He just lies in his room all day, running a high fever of 40 degrees for 2 days in a row. When he woke up, the first sentence he said was, Mom and Dad, I seem to have killed Anna. His father's voice choked up, his wrinkled face stained with tears. Your mother and I were scared to death, and at that time we couldn't contact you. Fortunately, an old friend of your father's lived near your house. He personally went over to check and confirmed that you were still safe. Only then were we temporarily relieved. My heart skipped a beat. An unbelievable guess flashed in my mind. Could it be that Ryan had also been reborn? His father didn't notice the strangeness in my eyes and continued. From that day on, the boy became more and more abnormal. He rummaged through the house, looking for everything related to you, watching day and night, watching and crying and laughing, muttering sentences like, "Why am I so stupid? Why did I hurt Anna? It's clearly not Anna's fault. Why was I reborn so late?" He choked up, his face full of wrinkles and tears. Ryan's mother continued, "We took him to see a psychiatrist, but on the way, he jumped out of the car and ran away. Since then, no one has been able to find him again. Until the police found 2 bodies in a secret basement. Both bodies were tortured to the point where only skeletons were left." I was silent for a long time, my voice hoarse. "Who are those 2 people?" His mother sighed. "One is Grace, and one is her first love, the one who hired thugs to attack you that year." Afterwards, I found a friend working in the police industry to inquire about the case. Only then did I know the whole story. After my child's funeral, Grace's nightmare officially began. Not only was her career completely ruined, but all her dirty past was also exposed. At that time, Ryan had discovered her true face. He cut off all contact, erasing all traces of her from his life. Grace tried to use the baby in her belly to force him to come back, but Ryan was completely awake. He coldly threw 2 DNA test reports in front of her. One was of him and the baby, and one was of her first love and the baby. The result was that the baby was not his. Ryan was just a pitiful cuckold. No longer able to cling to him, Grace could only return to her old lover. But that man was just a gambler, addicted to alcohol, young women, and gambling. The 2 quickly spent all the remaining money, stepping out of a luxurious life and returning to the bottom of society. That man couldn't accept the truth, and he began to vent all his anger on Grace. She was beaten to the point of being unbearable, hating me to the bone. So she planned to kidnap me to demand ransom. But this was discovered by Ryan. Just when the 2 of them were about to go to the airport to find me, he rammed his car into them on the highway. Afterwards, the 2 were imprisoned in that dark basement. They died slowly in pain. According to the investigation report, after the excessive mental shock, Ryan was diagnosed with schizophrenia and severe mania. Therefore, he escaped the death penalty but would have to live in a mental hospital for the rest of his life. Before going to see him, I wore a white dress, the style I loved most in my previous life. The moment he saw me, he burst into tears, but not tears, but blood. He knelt on the floor, his thin back only skin and bones. I looked down at him, asking a sentence, "How did you die?" In just a second, his face turned ashen. He realized that I had also been reborn. No wonder, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't win you back. He smiled bitterly, his trembling hand pointing to the left side of his chest. I stabbed myself in the heart. The corner of his mouth twitched into a wry smile. "I was so stupid. 3 days after you died, your co-pilot found out the truth that year." His voice was intermittent. I sighed, not wanting to hear anymore. I turned to leave. Before I stepped out of the room, his voice rang out, "If we go back to that night, would you still make that wish?" I didn't turn my head back, striding out of that gloomy room. Half a month later, one night, Ryan committed suicide. He used a plastic bag hidden under his pillow. When I received this news, I was boarding a flight to Northern Europe. When I boarded the plane, I saw Mark standing at the cabin door welcoming passengers. He had become a captain. When he saw me, he smiled gently. As I walked past him, I whispered a sentence, "Congratulations, happy honeymoon." The plane soared into the sky blue without a cloud. I thought my future would also be like the sky. After the rain, the sun will shine again.